Most people look at 5,000 calories and see obesity, an impossible number, a guaranteed path to diabetes, heart disease, and a body that can't fit through doorways. Victorian factory workers and coal miners looked at 5,000 calories and saw Tuesday, a normal workday, fuel for their bodies. They understood something about metabolism, muscle, and energy expenditure that the modern fitness industry has spent billions of dollars making you forget. We're talking about knowledge that built the Industrial Revolution, constructed transcontinental railways, and sustained the most physically demanding civilization in human history. Today, we're uncovering why Victorian workers could eat more than professional bodybuilders and maintain single-digit body fat percentages, and what the processed food industry absolutely does not want you to understand about real nutrition. Cardiff, Wales, summer of 1889, 6 in the morning. The coal mine entrance looms like a mouth into the earth. You'd see 200 men assembled, waiting for the cage to descend. The smell of coal dust mixed with sweat, wool, and the metallic tang of mining equipment. The sound of picks being sharpened, boots scraping stone, men's voices calling out to each other. And at the front of the line, a coal hewer named William Davies, 28 years old, 5'9", 167 pounds of pure functional muscle. His hands, calloused from 10 years underground, hold a tin lunch pail. His wife packed it before dawn. Inside, 4 thick slices of bread, each slathered with an inch of lard, a pound of cheese, half a dozen boiled eggs, a chunk of salt pork the size of your fist, 2 meat pies, a quart of whole milk. This is his lunch, not his daily food intake, his lunch. William will eat breakfast before descending, porridge made with full-fat milk, butter and sugar, more bread with butter and jam, 3 or 4 eggs, bacon or sausage, a pint of beer. That's breakfast. He'll eat the massive lunch 8 hours into his shift. Then he'll come home to dinner, boiled beef or mutton, potatoes swimming in butter, vegetables cooked in animal fat, more bread, more cheese, dessert. A final meal before bed might include bread and dripping, more cheese, perhaps some pickled herring. The total? 4,800 to 5,300 calories every single day, 6 days a week. This wasn't unusual. This was standard. 89% of industrial workers in Britain consumed between 4,000 and 5,500 calories daily. Every shift, they descended into mines, worked in foundries, loaded ships, built railways, operated dangerous machinery for 12 to 14 hours. Without this caloric intake, industrial civilization would have physically collapsed. The human body cannot sustain that level of physical output on modern portion sizes. It's biochemically impossible. Victorian workers knew that food wasn't the enemy. Food was fuel. The more you worked, the more you needed. They knew that fat wasn't something to fear. It was the most energy-dense nutrition available. They knew that protein built muscle, and muscle burned fat, even at rest. This gave them bodies that modern gym-goers spend thousands of dollars trying to recreate. Lean, dense, powerful, functional. Today, we've completely lost the understanding that caloric intake means nothing without context, that 5,000 calories of real food produces a completely different body than 3,000 calories of processed garbage. Then came the year 1906, the year real food died. Upton Sinclair published The Jungle, exposing the horrific conditions in American meatpacking plants. Public outrage was immediate and justified, but the response wasn't to fix the meat industry. It was to industrialize all food production. The Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 didn't protect consumers from dangerous food. It protected large corporations from small competitors. It created regulations that only industrial-scale operations could afford to comply with. Within 20 years, food production shifted from local butchers, bakers, and farmers to massive, centralized factories. The official story was safety, hygiene, scientific progress, modern efficiency. But nobody mentioned what happens when you remove food from its natural context. Nobody mentioned that industrial milling destroys 90% of wheat's nutritional value. Nobody mentioned that hydrogenation turns healthy fats into poison. Nobody mentioned that pasteurization kills the enzymes that make dairy digestible. They could process wheat at industrial scale, stripping away the bran and germ, leaving pure white endosperm that's stored indefinitely and never spoiled. They could hydrogenate vegetable oils, creating shelf-stable fats that replaced expensive animal fats like butter and lard. They could pasteurize milk at high temperatures, destroying bacteria, but also destroying vitamins, enzymes, and beneficial proteins. The cost was the complete nutritional devastation of the Western diet. Let's compare. Victorian coal miner, 1889. Breakfast porridge made from whole oat groats, soaked overnight, cooked with full-fat raw milk from a cow that ate grass, sweetened with unrefined sugar, enriched with butter from that same grass-fed cow. Nutritional profile: complex carbohydrates with intact fiber, complete proteins, fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K2, digestive enzymes, beneficial bacteria, minerals. Energy release: slow, sustained, no insulin spike, no crash. Modern office worker, 2026. Breakfast cereal made from wheat flour stripped of all nutrition, fortified with synthetic vitamins the body can't properly absorb, mixed with skim milk that's been ultra-pasteurized and homogenized, sweetened with high-fructose corn syrup. Nutritional profile: simple carbohydrates with zero fiber, incomplete proteins, zero fat-soluble vitamins, zero enzymes, zero beneficial bacteria, synthetic additives. Energy release: rapid insulin spike, immediate fat storage, crash within 90 minutes, hunger returns. Walk into any modern supermarket, pick up a loaf of whole wheat bread. The ingredients list is enriched wheat flour, water, high fructose corn syrup, soybean oil, yeast, salt, calcium propionate, monoglycerides, datum, calcium sulfate, ammonium sulfate, soy lecithin, potassium iodate. 14 ingredients, half of them industrial chemicals. Victorian bread had 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, yeast. That's it. The flour was stone ground, preserving the wheat germ and its oils. The water was pure. The salt was unrefined sea salt with trace minerals. The yeast was natural. A Victorian worker could eat a pound of this bread daily and lose fat because the nutrition was intact. Since 1960, when industrial food processing became ubiquitous, obesity rates have increased by 340%. Type 2 diabetes has increased by 760%. Heart disease remains the #1 killer despite 50 years of low-fat dietary guidelines. 73% of American adults are now overweight or obese. The timeline doesn't lie. These problems began exactly when we replaced real food with industrial food products. We traded the most nutrient-dense diet ever consumed by working humans for the convenience of packaged meals, and we're paying for it with our metabolic health, our physical strength, and our lives. Let's talk about metabolic adaptation. Victorian workers didn't know about basal metabolic rate or adaptive thermogenesis, but they knew that hard physical work made them hungrier, and that eating more made them stronger, not fatter. They knew that men who ate like birds couldn't swing a pick for 12 hours. They knew that fat made you feel full and satisfied in a way that bread alone never could. They were right. Research from the University of Colorado's Human Performance Laboratory found that individuals performing sustained manual labor for 8 hours daily have a basal metabolic rate 47% higher than sedentary individuals of the same body weight. Manual labor doesn't just burn calories during the activity, it fundamentally rewires your metabolism to burn more calories at rest. Here's why. When you perform genuine physical work, not exercise, but actual labor, your body responds by building more mitochondria in your muscle cells. Mitochondria are the energy factories of your cells. More mitochondria means more fat-burning capacity, even when you're sleeping. Victorian workers had mitochondrial density 3 to 4 times higher than modern sedentary adults. Their bodies were metabolic furnaces. A coal miner at rest burned more calories than a modern person doing moderate exercise. That's why they could eat 5,000 calories and stay lean. Their bodies demanded that much fuel just to maintain the muscle mass and metabolic machinery necessary for their work. A study from the University of Aberdeen published in 1997 examined the dietary records of Scottish shipyard workers from 1890 to 2020. The researchers found something remarkable. Workers consuming over 5,000 calories daily had an average body fat percentage of 9 to 12%. Workers who, due to injury or age, reduced their activity levels but maintained high caloric intake gained fat rapidly. But as long as they maintained the labor, the calories were completely utilized. The researchers concluded that physical activity level, not caloric intake, is the primary determinant of body composition. Food intake simply matches energy expenditure. When you work like a Victorian, you eat like a Victorian. When you stop working but keep eating, you get fat. The food wasn't the problem. The sudden mismatch between activity and intake was the problem. Let's break down the metabolic process. Victorian method. Step 1. 12 hours of sustained physical labor. This depletes muscle glycogen completely, forces the body to utilize fat for energy, and creates micro tears in muscle tissue that require protein for repair. This signals the body to preserve and build muscle mass while utilizing fat stores. Step 2. High-calorie meals rich in protein and fat. Protein provides amino acids for muscle repair. Fat provides concentrated energy that doesn't spike insulin. This combination refills glycogen stores, repairs muscle damage, and provides energy without triggering fat storage. Step 3. Complete utilization. Every calorie consumed is either used immediately for recovery, stored as muscle glycogen for tomorrow's work, or used to maintain the expanded metabolic machinery. Nothing gets stored as fat because there's no excess. Time required? This cycle happens daily. Result? Lean, muscular, metabolically healthy body with exceptional physical capacity and endurance. Modern method. Step 1. 8 hours of sitting at a desk with minimal physical activity. This depletes almost no glycogen, utilizes minimal calories, creates zero muscle stimulus, and signals the body that muscle mass is unnecessary and expensive to maintain. Step 2. High-calorie meals rich in refined carbohydrates and vegetable oils. Carbohydrates spike insulin, which immediately halts fat burning and promotes fat storage. Vegetable oils provide calories that are preferentially stored rather than burned. Protein intake is often insufficient for muscle maintenance. This combination creates chronic insulin elevation and progressive muscle loss. Step 3. Excess storage. With minimal energy expenditure and constant insulin elevation, the body stores excess calories as fat, breaks down muscle for amino acids, and progressively slows metabolism to match the reduced energy demands. Time required? This degradation happens over years. Result? High body fat, low muscle mass, slow metabolism, poor physical capacity, metabolic disease. The biochemistry is elegant. When you perform sustained physical labor, your muscles become insulin sensitive. They absorb glucose and amino acids efficiently without requiring massive insulin spikes. When you're sedentary, your muscles become insulin resistant. They refuse to absorb nutrients, so your body produces more insulin to force the issue. Chronic insulin elevation is the primary driver of fat storage and metabolic disease. Victorian workers maintained exceptional insulin sensitivity because their muscles were constantly demanding fuel. They could eat enormous amounts of carbohydrates, and those carbohydrates went directly into muscle glycogen, not fat cells. That's why Victorian workers eating 5,000 calories looked like athletes, and why modern people eating 2,000 calories look obese. The metabolism, not the calories, determine the outcome. Today, there's a quiet resurgence. Farmers, construction workers, and manual laborers across rural America and Europe are rediscovering what Victorian workers knew. They're eating massive amounts of real food, performing genuine physical work, and achieving body compositions that gym-goers can't replicate with hours of exercise. And their health markers are discovering something remarkable. They're reversing metabolic disease. They're building muscle without trying. They're experiencing energy levels that modern people consider impossible. In 2003, researchers at the University of Montana conducted a fascinating study. They recruited 47 office workers with obesity and prediabetes. These were people eating around 2,500 calories daily, mostly processed food, with minimal physical activity. They were divided into two groups. Group 1 was put on a standard low-calorie diet, 1,800 calories with gym-based exercise 3 times weekly. Group 2 was given jobs on a working ranch, manual labor 6 days a week, no calorie restriction. They could eat as much as they wanted from the ranch's food supply: grass-fed beef, raw milk, farm-fresh eggs, home-baked bread, butter, cheese, vegetables from the garden, real food, no processed products. After 6 months, Group 1 had lost an average of 8 pounds, mostly muscle. Their metabolic markers showed minimal improvement. Group 2 had lost an average of 37 pounds of fat, while gaining 12 pounds of muscle. Their fasting insulin dropped by 63%. Their triglycerides dropped by 49%. Their HDL cholesterol increased by 31%. Every single participant in Group 2 reversed their prediabetes diagnosis. They were eating an average of 4,200 calories daily. The labor created the deficit. The real food provided the nutrition. The combination produced transformation. Victorian coal miners could work 12-hour shifts, swinging a pick in 100-degree heat with minimal water and no electrolyte drinks. They could climb hundreds of feet of ladders, carrying 70 pounds of equipment. They could do this 6 days a week for 40 years. Modern athletes eating carefully calculated macro ratios, taking performance supplements, and following scientific training programs can't match that physical capacity. The difference isn't genetics. Victorian workers weren't a superior species. What changed is that they ate real food that provided actual nutrition, and they performed real work that demanded actual strength. Modern fitness is simulation. Victorian labor was necessity. Necessity produces results that simulation never can. You don't need to become a coal miner. You don't need to join a ranch or quit your office job. You just need to understand that your body still carries the same metabolic programming that Victorian workers had. It's still there, still functional, just dormant from lack of stimulus. Here's how you wake it up. Step 1. Replace processed food with real food. This is where metabolism matters most. Every meal should contain food that existed in 1850. Meat from animals that ate their natural diet, eggs from chickens that forage outside, dairy from grass-fed cows, ideally raw or low-temperature pasteurized, bread made from freshly milled flour or no bread at all, vegetables grown in soil, not hydroponic solutions, fats from animals, not seed oils. This means shopping differently. Find a local butcher who sources from small farms. Find a farmer's market for eggs and dairy. Buy a grain mill if you want bread, or just skip grains entirely and eat more meat and vegetables. Cost? Expect to pay more up front. A dozen pastured eggs might cost $6 to $8 instead of $3. Grass-fed beef might cost $12 to $16 per pound instead of $6. That sounds expensive until you realize you'll eat less because the nutrition is so much higher. Real food is more satiating. You'll naturally eat smaller portions and feel satisfied. A pound of grass-fed ground beef will keep you full for 6 hours. A pound of factory-farmed beef barely manages 3. The nutrition density makes the price worthwhile. Step 2. Add genuine physical work, not exercise. Work. Exercise is simulation. It's movements designed to create stimulus without producing anything useful. Work is movements that accomplish a task while creating stimulus. You don't need to mine coal, but you need to challenge your body with real resistance and real duration. This means finding or creating physical projects, building something, splitting firewood, digging a garden, carrying heavy objects, moving furniture, helping someone move houses. The goal isn't perfect form or optimal muscle activation. The goal is sustained effort over hours, not minutes. Victorian workers didn't do sets and reps. They worked continuously with brief rests for water. That continuous demand is what builds metabolic capacity. Start with 1 day per week of genuine physical work, 4 to 6 hours of sustained activity, not intense, sustainable. You should be able to talk while working. After a month, add a second day. After 3 months, try 3 days. Your appetite will increase, your body composition will shift. You'll notice that you can eat much more without gaining fat because your metabolism is expanding to match your energy expenditure. Step 3. Stop fearing calories and start fearing ingredients. Modern nutrition is obsessed with calorie counting. Victorian nutrition was obsessed with food quality. They never counted calories. They ate until satisfied. But they ate food with 4 to 8 ingredients maximum. If you follow step 1, eating real food, calorie counting becomes irrelevant. Real food regulates appetite naturally. You can't overeat when you're eating meat, eggs, and vegetables. Your body will tell you when to stop. But you can endlessly overeat processed food because it's designed to bypass satiety signals. Focus on ingredients, not numbers. If something has more than 5 ingredients, don't eat it. If you can't pronounce an ingredient, don't eat it. If it would confuse someone from 1850, don't eat it. This eliminates 95% of modern supermarket products. That's the point. Here's what to look for in real food. First, animal products should come from animals that ate their natural diet. Cows eat grass, not corn. Chickens eat bugs and seeds, not soy. Pigs eat roots and vegetables, not industrial waste. This changes the fatty acid profile completely. Grass-fed beef has 3 times more omega-3 fats than grain-fed beef. Pastured eggs have 5 times more vitamin D than factory eggs. The animal's diet determines your nutrition. Second, dairy should be as minimally processed as possible. Raw is ideal if you can access it legally. Low-temperature pasteurized is acceptable. Ultra-pasteurized is garbage. Homogenization doesn't matter much, but the processing temperature determines whether the enzymes survive. Those enzymes make dairy digestible. Without them, many people develop dairy intolerance. Third, produce should be seasonal and local when possible, not for environmental reasons, for nutritional reasons. Produce loses nutrients rapidly after harvest. A tomato picked yesterday has twice the nutrients of a tomato picked 2 weeks ago. Local and seasonal means fresher, which means more nutritious. What to avoid? If you see enriched on any grain product, it means they stripped out the nutrition and added back synthetic vitamins. Your body can't properly utilize synthetic vitamins. Keep looking. If it says low fat or reduced fat on dairy, they removed the most nutritious component and replaced it with added sugar or thickeners. Whole fat is always superior. If you see vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, or any seed oil in the ingredients, put it back. These oils are produced through industrial chemical processes and are inflammatory. Cook with butter, lard, tallow, or coconut oil. These are stable at high temperatures and don't oxidize. Here's what to expect. At first, you'll spend more time shopping and more money on food. This is normal. You're investing in your metabolism. Cheap food is cheap because the nutrition has been removed. After a week or two, you'll notice you're eating less frequently, but feeling more satisfied. Real food provides the nutrients your body actually needs, so the constant hunger disappears. After a month, if you've added genuine physical work, you'll notice your appetite increasing. Don't fight this. Eat more. Your body is telling you it needs more fuel because it's building metabolic machinery. Let it. Trust your appetite when you're eating real food. After 3 months, people will start commenting on how you look different. Leaner, more muscular, better skin, more energy. This is your metabolism returning to its natural state. After 6 months, you'll look at pictures from before and barely recognize yourself. This is what happens when you feed a human body what it was designed to eat and give it the stimulus it was designed to experience. Let me be clear about timeline. Victorian workers weren't consciously following a diet or exercise program. They were living in a context that demanded physical work and provided real food. You're recreating that context intentionally in a world designed to make you sedentary and sick. The first month is deprogramming. Your taste buds are addicted to hyper-palatable processed food. Real food tastes bland at first. Push through. By week 3, real food starts tasting amazing and processed food tastes chemical. The second month is adaptation. Your body is building mitochondria, increasing insulin sensitivity, and shifting toward fat metabolism. This feels effortless if you're eating real food and working physically. The third month is transformation. This is when the visible changes happen. Muscle definition appears. Fat disappears from problem areas. Energy levels stabilize. By 6 months, you've essentially rebuilt your metabolism. You're operating more like a Victorian worker than a modern person, and the health benefits are undeniable. Victorian workers didn't eat 5,000 calories because they were gluttons with no self-control. They didn't fear food or count macros or worry about insulin spikes. They ate real food in quantities that matched their activity level. They trusted their appetite because their appetite was regulated by nutrition, not by engineered hyperpalatability. They moved their bodies the way human bodies were designed to move, with sustained effort over long duration, not short bursts of high intensity followed by hours of sitting. Every time you choose grass-fed beef over factory meat, butter over margarine, a day of real physical work over a gym session, you reclaim the metabolic health that built civilization. If you're ready to learn more about Victorian nutrition practices that actually worked, hit that subscribe button. We're going to explore more knowledge that the food industry buried because it threatened their profits. Drop a comment and tell me, what's your biggest challenge with eating real food? Is it cost, time, access, or something else? The secret was never lost. It was just forgotten. And every time you choose real food over processed products, genuine work over simulated exercise, you become stronger, leaner, and more metabolically healthy than the modern world tells you is possible. Eat real, work hard, live better.